Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the participants from various colleges and universities across the India. I, Manju Saroj, welcome you all here on behalf of Department of Chemistry. Today we are here for a talk on open educational resources by Dr. Rohit Bhatia. This talk is the need of time. Before Dr. Rohit Bhatia will start his talk, I would like to mention we are obliged with the presence of our respected principal, Dr. Pramila Kumar, our former principal, Dr. Sarshi Tyagi, and our very dear superannuated teachers from our department. Now, I would like to request Dr. Pramila Kumar to greet the audience. Ma'am, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Gargi Fraternity organizers, I extend a very warm welcome to all participants and the resource person, Dr. Rohit Bhatia, Joint Advisor, National Resource Center for Education, on the webinar entitled Open Educational Resources. Open educational resources describe educational resources that are freely available for use, reuse, and adaptation by educators and learners without paying royalty or license fee. This term was used by UNESCO in 2002. But isn't it amazing that most ancient open educational resources are available in the form of Vedas and Puranas? The Vedas are the source of integral wisdom, science, tradition, and culture of a remarkable civilization. They are oral compilation of distilled wisdom of cosmic knowledge survived from the time immemorial. Since ages, this knowledge is freely available for all. Maybe the forum was not modern. According to Indian mythology, when we share the knowledge, it increases. If we wish to enhance the efficiency of educators and increase the quality of teaching, which of course will widen the scope of education, it is really inspiring to know that MHRD has been developing many open educational resources for the benefit of learners. With this, I congratulate the Department of Chemistry for organizing this expedient webinar and conclude with a shlok from Rig Veda, Ano Bhadra Kratvo Yantu Vishwataha. Let noble thoughts come to us from every side. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your lovely and enthusiastic words. Now, I request Dr. Beena Negi to introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Manju. Good morning, all the participants. Today, Department of Chemistry is going to organize this webinar, and our resource person for the same hour is Dr. Rohit Bhatia. Dr. Rohit Bhatia is presently working as a joint advisor in National Resource Center for Education at National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, where he is involved in developing a natural repository of open educational resources for teachers in higher education. Dr. Bhatia obtained his PhD in chemistry from Delhi University. He carried out his postdoctoral research at Indian Agricultural Research Institute, New Delhi. Dr. Bhatia is a policy researcher, scientist, and academician with more than 10 years of experience in research and development, teaching, and policy advising. He has published 30 research papers and 7 book chapters. Dear participants, there will be a question and answer session at the end of this talk. So all the participants can write their queries in the chat box. And I request all the participants to keep their audio mute during the session for clear voice. Now I request Dr. Bhatia to deliver his talk. Over to you, Dr. Bhatia.
Thank you, Beena. I'm just start sharing with my screen. I hope you all can see my screen now.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes, visible. Hello, everyone. I hope you are hearing me clearly. I'm delighted to welcome you all in this interesting talk on open educational resources. As I was introduced by Beena, my name is Dr. Rohit Bhatia. I work as a joint advisor at National Resource Center for Education at NIPA, that is National Institute of Education Planning and Administration, where we are developing national repository for open resources for teachers in higher education. We are having a mandate from MHRD to develop resources for roughly about 70 subjects for higher education. And we will be soon launching our website, uh, hosting resources for life sciences and economics for start. And chemistry resources will be in the process of collation, and most probably they will be up on the website by 15th June. So my today's talk will be divided into two parts. First part will be introducing to you what are the open educational resources, their brief history, what are the different type of open education resources, what are the different tools that you can use to make open education resources, and how we can use different open source tools to make open education resources. And in my second talk, I will be talking about the various open education resources initiative which were taken by Ministry of Human Resource and Development for Indian institutes, teachers, and students. So, as we know, in last 3 decades, there is lot change technologically and as a society over the world. So, in last 3 decades, we have seen that internet penetration has increased and increased in bandwidth. So now we know that there is improved internet connection and internet is available. Like in India only, there is 560 million internet user. Roughly half of the Indian population now uses internet to say. This combined increase in bandwidth and access to
Excuse
internet.
me, sir.
Yes.
Your voice is not audible.
Is it now audible? Hello? Is it
There
audible
is
now?
some connection problem.
Just let me see. Is it now audible?
Dr. Bhatia, you are audible to me. You're audible.
I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible to me. Maybe it's an individual
Yeah,
uh,
it's very
issue.
much audible to
You are
me.
audible. Please continue.
Okay.
You are audible.
So, okay. So I was saying that in last 3 decades, we have seen that internet access has been increased and the internet bandwidth has increased. This better internet access and better internet bandwidth led to formation of global network communities. So like 10 years ago, we cannot think that we can conduct such a session where I can be addressing 300 people across the country sitting from my room, but because of better internet access and bandwidth, it's possible now. This increased communication has led to increased
Hello, Dr. Rohit. Now you are
yeah.
not audible.
Okay, now basically you
Now
have
it's okay.
okay. So now this better internet and better internet speed lead to the global community, as I'm saying, and this led to the better adoption of collaboration tool. Now we can collaborate with anybody anywhere in the world to create resources or content. Like take an example of Wikipedia. Wikipedia, we all know, is a collaborative tool where the people can collaborate. So that is one thing. Like there are now many tools where you can write a paper, 4 or 5 people or 10 people or 20 people can write a paper by collaborating. There are tools available which we can use. So now let me ask, uh, okay, now let me ask, uh, as ma'am saying, what does the term open educational resource means to you? Like principal ma'am has just explained, open education resources means any resource which are free to use. So that is what the open education resource, that free to use, free to reuse, free to revise, and any how you want to use it is open educational resources. Now let me start with introducing you to the how the open educational resource started. Open educational resource movement was inspired by open source movement in softwares. So the core heart of open education resource movement is freedom. Freedom from a cost, freedom to access, and freedom to use. When we talk about traditional education resource, supposedly we talk about textbook. So we says like in organic chemistry we nowadays use Claydon. Lot of people use Claydon to teach, but the cost of Claydon is roughly about 1800 to 2200 rupees. Not every student can afford it, and not every college library can afford the number of copies that is being needed for students. So if we have comparable source, the organic chemistry is described equally good as a Claydon, but it is available free. That is good thing. Now we says to use, because of it is free, it is hosted on internet, it is free. Nobody need to pay for it. At the same time, when I say freedom to use, like if you want to use Claydon, like in this situation of COVID-19, we were asked by our universities and college to share resources, but technically I cannot share the Claydon copies online to my students. That is going to be infringing copyright, and publisher can sue me. But now if I have an open resource or open textbook for organic chemistry, we can share them freely to our students. So this is the philosophy behind open education resources, that low cost to open access, that everybody can access it. Cost doesn't do the partiality between the person who have a money to access a textbook and a person who doesn't have a money to have a textbooks. And then we had ability to share the resources as one wants. So the term was coined in UNESCO in 2002. In 2002, UNESCO organized a conference, which is a forum on impact on open courseware for higher education in developing countries. And in this forum, this term open education resource was coined. There are a lot many definitions which has been given to by individuals for open education resources, but the one of the most comprehensive definition that I find is given by UNESCO in this forum. That is, open education resource are any type of educational material that are in public domain or introduced with the open license. The keyword is open license. I will be explaining it in ahead my slide what are the open licenses are. The nature of these open materials means that anyone can legally and freely copy, use, adapt, and reshare them. So you are legally doing anything. You are not infringing anybody's copyright. You don't have a headache that somebody is going to sue you. That is not going to take part. It is legal and freely available copies which you can use. And open education resources ranges from textbooks to curricula, syllabi, lecture notes, assignments, tests, projects, audio, video, animation. It can be anything that you develop for your classroom and you share it. So that is going to be open educational resource. Now let's talk how brief history of open education resource. So the philosophy of open education resource originated in United Kingdom in 1982. In 1982, the government of UK has established a committee to establish role of computers in university teaching. This review pointed out that by sharing their expertise, educators improve their quality, and this sharing also leads to something what we call as efficiency saving. So wheel is not going to be reinvented every time. That is what the thought is. This was the first time the concept of sharing of resources by educators came into existence in university circles. Then in 1989, World Wide Web was invented, and this changed the world that we know. But again, there was a problem of sharing on internet due to the copyrights. This problem was solved in 2002 by Creative Commons licenses. I will be explaining in detail what are the different type of Creative Commons licenses we can use. And at the same time, due to the internet, reusable learning objects were introduced in learning. Then in 2002, first open education resource uh, initiative was launched by MIT in form of MIT OpenCourseware. Many of us have been used just OpenCourseware to access the course for teaching and for learning. And this leads to many other innovations like Open University launches Open Learn in 2003. China launched its own open education resource, that is China Open Education Resource. And then we have a Khan Academy, uh, which help in flipping the classroom in United States, basically. Then we have very important 2007 Cape Town Open Education Declaration. This is very important declaration because here they define what is open education resources and how one can share and how these resources can have improve teaching in developing countries. Then 2009 to 2011 we saw the development of the MOOC courses, and Coursera come into the existence as the largest uh, MOOC platform. And at the same time, we also in 2016 started in our own MOOC in India. Now, let's discuss how the traditional teaching scenario and sharing open education resources are there. So most of us as a teachers create some education resource for our classes, like we create notes, we create presentation, we create tests, we create case studies, and we share them with the students. That's it. We can be sharing it for a 2 3 batches, or then we can change it. Or question papers we change question paper every year, question bank we change every year, but we give them students. That's it. It is with me, and one goes out with me, like that. If I get retired, I will take that knowledge with me. It won't be shared to anybody else. Now, what happen if you designate, like the quizzes that you make or class tests you can make or a question bank that we designate them as open education resource on web. So I create a question bank on supposedly ionic equilibrium in for my classroom in India. So I designate it as an open education resource and I post it on that. Now this is now available to anybody to use. Student from Russia, student from Africa, student from Argentina or Brazil can take that and practice that questions and enhance their learnings. Teachers can take from supposedly from Nepal or Bhutan or Bangladesh can take these questions, adapt it in their local language. They can translate those language. Like question will be the same because we are creating it in English. They can change it into the local language and reuse them. So knowledge is shared. Plus, they can improve it on that questions, and I can use again that resource, improved resource in my classroom. But when we are sharing the resources on open education resources and web, there are few additional considerations that we have to keep in mind. First is copyright issue. I cannot share anything which is copyrighted. Like when I'm making us, like in classroom, I can make a presentation where I take a graph from a core textbook and use it. But I cannot share with the same graph without or the publisher's permission as an open access resource. So that is the thing. Publisher can sue you. That is need to be. Then there is formatting for web. Like I cannot just normally scan and put it on the web. Okay, but scanning it and putting on a web anything won't solve the problem because that is going to be difficult for people to reuse. So I have to convert and format my resource in form which is readable for web. Like I have to convert my Word file into HTML file. So that is formatting that one need to keep in a mind. Okay, then there is descriptive metadata. So if you just put it, nobody can search it. So you need to put a metadata. You need to put what are the keywords are there set or description about a resource so that people can search it. Then where to publish it, which repository or the web you are putting it. That is also important. Like I just create a website and I put it, but a free website I created on something like WebEx. So when we create on WebEx, but I supposedly WebEx closed down in 3 years. Now the resources that I have put there are gone. So that's going to create a problem. So this is one half a few things one a person needs to keep in mind. There are 5 R's of OR, open educational resources, which are very important for any resource that you make and share. So any resource that we make should follow these 5 R's. First is retain, that you have a right to make. Anybody who download that one resource that you shared have a right to make on copies, duplicate, store, or manage. Like, I taken your manuscript or your textbook for organic chemistry, I can download it and share it with anybody. That's it. Or like you created a lab exercise book, lab practical book or instruction book for your student, you share it, I can do it. Lot of student colleges in Delhi University have this practice that they created lab notebook, lab instruction manuals for students, but they are specific to those colleges only. But supposedly if we share it on web, and every teacher, because most of the teaching the same syllabus, can use that or improve it and then just redistribute it in our students, so it will help. So we will be retaining it, I can download it and I copy, reuse it. I can reuse your resource in class, in study groups, on website, in video, anywhere I want. You are not going to sue me for that, why you are using your my lab instruction manual on website, your website. No, but I have to attribute that to you. That is one thing that we need to keep in mind. Then remix, so I can revise it. So I take supposedly an experiment from your lab manual, I put it few more things, that how the I just add the more question. Like in your lab manual there is no question on the basis to test the knowledge or learning of the student. I can create more questions in that, and I can remix and reuse the original content. That is, I have a freedom to remix. You cannot tell me that why you have played with my content. Then I can revise it. Like, you created something which is now I see that is then outdated. So I can add that to that modern thing which is being added in the knowledge, and I can share that also. Then I can redistribute. Like, I can original content, my revision remix, I can redistribute to anyone I want. Now these are the different type of resources as we talked. Like, there can be textbooks, there can be courses, there can be course materials, there can be interactive simulations, there can be public domain books, there can be audio books, there can be modules, open access books, videos, quizzes, question paper old, anything that you can think that can help teacher or learner can be designated as a open educational resource. Now we talk about benefits and challenges. There are lot of benefits and lot of challenges in open education resource. They are not the perfect ones. The first important benefit with the open education resource is low cost. As I told you earlier, most of the open education resources are free to use. People don't charge anything. So they are free to use one. Then we have customization. You can customize it. Like, I can customize it for my class level. So one of the most common problem जो हम फेस करते हैं अपनी क्लास में, कि हमारी जो टेक्स्ट बुक्स हम यूज करते हैं उसकी इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज स्टूडेंट्स के लिए काफी टाइम प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है. बिकॉज हमारे जितने भी मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स हैं, दे आर कमिंग नॉट द नेटिव इंग्लिश स्पीकर्स. सो फॉर देम there is a problem to understand the language of the textbook. So what I can do is, if there is the open textbooks, I can adjust or customize its level to my class. There can be a class in which I need to enhance the level of the difficulty because I know this class can handle it, or otherwise I can need to lower it so that student can easily understand it. That customization is not given to us in traditional textbook scenario. Then there are plug and play resources. Like, there are a lot many open access videos are there. Just you can show to your class to make them understand the concept. Like, there are a lot many videos on electrochemistry or nanotechnology which are freely available on internet. So that can be used to introduce a topic in a class to make a background of the learning that we want to use. Then there is a multimodal learning. Like, student will be learning outcome will be enhanced because learning is going to be multimodal, not the single mode. So there can be videos, there can be audios, there can be quizzes. So students are more engaged in that learning process and outcome of the learning are better. Then open education resources make learning lifelong experience. Like if I taught a student most probably keep the notes for a year or two, and then he or goes move forward. But suddenly he or she wants to prepare for some exam in which there will be the chemistry from BSc will be asked or MSc will be asked. So now he or she can come to my my website where I have hosted my courses resources. They can take that, learn and revise them. So they don't are not going to be lifelong learners with me. And otherwise they can enhance their knowledge like the courses that they've not taken, they can use that also. The first challenge is permanence. Like if we are not going to archive our resources properly on internet, they are gone. So as I am giving example that if I host on a website, free website, and that website vanishes, so my resource also vanish. So there are a lot many repositories are there on the website on the internet where we can archive and where the resources will be lifelong. That is the policy of that website or repository. Then the complex IP issues, intellectual property right issues, because most of the teachers uh, do not have complete knowledge of IP issues that can lead to certain problems. So that is again a hindrance or challenge. Then there are missing supporting resources. Like most of the time, the resources that are being shared as a open education resources are textbooks or the class notes. But what is missing is quizzes, question banks, question papers, practice videos, practice audios, or audio doubt clearing session audios, or web other things. So these resources are missing, which makes that our open education resources are not the complete one. Then there are quality issues, like most of the teachers are not trained as a copywriter or designers. So most of the time students doesn't find the quality of open education resources comparable to the publishing publishing house books. So that is another challenge. And then the foremost challenge is time. As we know as a teacher, as a teacher, we have a lot of responsibility besides teaching. Like we have a correction jobs, we have our syllabus curriculum meetings, then we have a society meetings, then we have our own research. So finding time to make a open education resource is a challenging thing. So now let's talk about, does sharing the content online make it open resource? Like I say, you have a class notes with you, you make that class note, and now you publish your class notes on internet. Does it make it open resource? You can share your answer uh, in this chat box. I can read it. So what you think? So by just sharing, can you make it resources as open? Answer is no. So if you publish even your own resources on a website saying that people can use it, but you are still retaining the copyright, and you still person using have a slightly hindrance in using that, you may sue him for copyright infringement. So this is a big problem. What is infringing the copyright is a big problem. So to overcome this problem, David Wiley of Creative Commons created the alternative copyright licensing agreement in 2002, which helped person to openly share. So every document that you post on net can have this copyright license agreement with them, which designate them how you want to share. So this is the scale of the copyright agreement that is there. The most restrictive one is all right copyright reserve, the C that we see. Then the most open is public domain. So if you say put the document and take this copyright agreement document from a Creative Commons website, sign it and put it with your resource and say this is in public domain. anybody can use it without attribution. So they don't even need to use the CC by 4. So they don't even need to. Uh, Hello, can you listen me?
Hello. Now, Rohit, now we can hear you.
Okay. So as I am telling you that you can download the copyright licensing agreement from the Creative Commons website and sign that agreement and post it along with your resource. So if you just see, like we normally see CCY4, CCY3, CCY1, what is that? So these are the CCY. CC is Creative Commons. When we say BY is attribution, that you are going to be attributed. And we see NC is non-commercial, non-derivative is for ND, and SA is share alike. So if somebody share, which is say CC, BY, NC, ND, means you can use that resource. You have to get attribution. Like in this slide, I have attributed from where I have taken, because it is under the CCY, BY. It is for non-commercial. I'm sharing it as a non-commercial basis with you. And then this is a share alike. I have not changed it. So I have shared it as it is. I have not changed it. So the license, which is share attribution and no derivative here, you can revise and share the document. So this is how the licensing is there. And also when you search documents, making open online research, you can also go and search open access contents like CCY4, whatever the license that you require, you can search. Now let's talk about, so much talk we talk about open education resource. Now the tools. So the most common tool that one can use for creating open access open education resources, PowerPoint and Word. But unfortunately PowerPoint and Microsoft Word are paid resources. Not everybody can have them, or capacity to pay, or every institution doesn't have resources to buy the legal copy of them. So there are a lot many open source software which are present, which are equally good or even better than these paid tools which we can use. Like I have distributed three categories: the tools for creating text open education resources, tools for creating image open education resources, tools for creating video open education resources. Now, if you want to create open education resource for text open education, best thing is Inkscape. Inkscape can be used for text and image both way. It is a great software to use, very easy to learn, and it makes great resources. Then I just saying that if we normally what we do, we have a class notes and we want to make a open education, we scan it and we put it. But scanning creates a problem. Pearson doesn't cannot do the modification or revising them. I told you that 5 hours, so revise will be missing from that. So that's not going to be good open education resource. So you can use Libra OCR, that is going to optical character recognition, that can scan and digitize your notes and you can put it. Then we have the Libra Office Draw, which allows you to do the drawing. Then I am also, open office is similar to the Libra Office that you can use. Then we can make wikis. The one thing that I seen is in India, हम लोग जो इंडिया के अंदर हम पढ़ा रहे हैं अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी में, we don't make wikis. We can make departmental wikis. Like Gargi chemistry department can create a wiki, and whatever the sources, like resources that they have created, they can put on this wiki and student can use, and it can be shared to anybody. So that is the thing that we need. Wikis we need to adopt, and these are free. Wikis are free. Anybody from any department can create it. Even the individual teacher can create wiki for the courses that he or she is teaching. Then I was telling you, when we want to share the resources on the internet, it should be in HTML. But you will say कि sir हमें तो coding नहीं आती. How we know? We are teacher of chemistry, or we are teacher of science, maths or history or Hindi, but we doesn't know how to code. So the problem is solved by HP5. H5P is a software which converts your text into the HTML and directly you can post it on the web. It's an open source software, very easy to use. You can use it. Then we have tutori.de. This is a website can help you creating quizzes. There are a lot many quizzes there already there. You can use them or you can create your own quizzes. Exert is again the software, open source software for converting text to the HTML. It is from University of Nottingham. It is free basically. Then we have Canvas. Canvas is again a very good resource to share whatever the resources, quizzes, etc. that you are putting. Then there is a textbook. Like I was telling you about the open textbook. So I say I want to create an open textbook, and I told you that we are not designers, or we are not how to design, how to do the layout. We don't know. So pressbook.com comes in the in this picture. This helps you to self-publish open textbook. There is an amazing software which do all the layout, everything that himself by the software you can use. Then lot many pictures that we use in our teaching we can use, like Photoshop we all know, but Photoshop is very expensive software. You can replace Photoshop with GIMP shop. This is very good one. Then there is a Blender which allows you to remix the pictures. Then there is OpenShot which again allow you to edit pictures. Then we talk about audio video. Basically, audio visual resources are more impactful than text or image resources. So if you want to create an audio resource, there is a software called Audacity. So this is a free voice editorial edit software where you can record and edit the voice, or create your audio and create it. So this is a very good tool to start a podcast around your courses or in your department. Like in our science department, we can use this Audacity to for introducing students to the what we call as science communication. So this is a very good source. Then there is a presentationcube.com. Like lot of time you make a presentation to teach a topic. So we can convert this presentation into the video using presentationtube.com, and we can publish it in YouTube where it can be accessed by a lot of things. Then we have this jesti.org. This is again alternative to Zoom. Like this is a paid version of Zoom, but every institute doesn't have a resource, or every individual teacher doesn't have a resource to have paid to buy the paid version of Zoom. So what you can do is you go to this website, create an account, and it is a perfect alternative to Zoom. You can create a webinars, you can create a that student lectures, and 200 to 250 participants are can be added at a time. Same time, Big Blue Button is again web conference software which can be used for teaching students. So these are the tools that you can look around, and they are very good tools for open access. You don't need a money, you don't need to be very computer savvy, और आपको बहुत सारा कंप्यूटर नहीं आना चाहिए कि इसको यूज करने के लिए. You can use them. So now these are the examples of few collections and repositories. Very good ones are highlighted in red, which we can use for our teaching and by the students for that. I recommend you all to go to this Wiki Educator India and register yourself if you are interested in sharing resources, open education resources. OSIS also is very good. It has a very large collection of the resources. IIP is in International Institute of Education Planning and UNESCO Wiki of Open Repository. This is basically repository of all the open education resources, which is going to be very useful. It has a subject-wise listing. So chemistry, physics, biology, everything is neatly mentioned. So you can use it. UNESCO portal is also good. I have listed iTunes. So if you are using the Apple products, iTunes also have lot of podcasts around the education and the subjects which can be shared with these students for a critical thinking, like in areas of specifically in areas of art. So this is a very good resource. YouTube we all know, Wikipedia we all know, but Wikipedia again with a conscious, many times the resource the information is not correct. There are also institutional repositories like Open University, Open Learn is very good. In India, we have a eGyan Kosh, which is very good. So, but unfortunately in India, we doesn't have many open institute repositories to good repositories, I can say. Then, as I'm talking about in the chemistry department, I just collated few of the good resources which I use for teaching chemistry. There are BC Open textbooks. It has about 55 textbooks which are free of very good standard, which can be used in our teaching. Like they can be a books which can be replacing the books that we're traditionally using in our teaching. देन वी हैव केम विकी कोड, दैट्स अ वेरी गुड सोर्स, बहुत अच्छा सोर्स है जिसके अंदर बहुत सारी इंफॉर्मेशन प्रेजेंट है. देन वी हैव अ लिब्रा टेक्स्ट केमिस्ट्री, again good source to introduce topics to students. Then we have OpenStax, this is again the textbooks. Then this open textbook library again have about 43 books which are good. Then this college chemistry one labs, if you go, so these have the virtual labs there which can be used. Like in this situation nowadays, we can use this virtual labs to help student to have some practical knowledge about the subject. And then there is applied math and science education repository for chemistry. And then I just like to mention in this, अगर हमारे पास हिंदी मीडियम के स्टूडेंट्स हो एंड दे हैव अ प्रॉब्लम अंडरस्टैंडिंग the English one, so MP Doordarshan YouTube channel has video from MP Bhoj University. All these videos are in Hindi because they teach BSc level in Hindi medium. BSc chemistry भी हिंदी मीडियम में पढ़ाते हैं. So वहाँ पे जाकर हम शेयर कर सकते हैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स के साथ कि वो एक बहुत अच्छा सोर्स है. There are roughly combining covering all the syllabus which is being prescribed by UGC model syllabus. Now I'm starting with the second part of my talk, where I will be talking about open education resource in India. So open education resources started in India from 2008. In 2008, National Education Commission at that time recognizes open education resources and mandate start of e-curriculum. On basis of this, Ministry of Human Resource and Development launched National Mission for ICT in Education in 2009. The total budget in 14th plan, 5-year plan of this national mission was about 4,600 crores, and it has mandate to develop open education resources for India, keeping in mind the Indian syllabus and Indian conditions. So all the resources that has been developed are under the CCY4 license that, as I discussed earlier, this what are the CCY4 licenses are. So anybody can use it. So there are at present about 14 open education resources initiative that is being started by Ministry of Human Education Resources. They merge certain for merge the earlier ones in them, and now they are there. So I'm just start discussing 12 here, and out of those 12 I will be discussing few in details which are of our teachers and learner, chemistry learners or other teachers importance. First is Swayam. Swayam is a MOOC platform, as we know. Then we have a Swayam Prabha. Then we have a National Digital Library of India. Then we have a Spoken Tutorials. So Spoken Tutorial is a very good website to enhance your computational skills. So in this Spoken Tutorials, they teach you how to use open source software. Like they teach you how to use MATLAB, open source MATLABs. They used to teach how to use open source drug discovery softwares. There are a lot many software, educational software which are being there, which are being taught. And beside, there are software which are being basic IT competencies that is being taught open source in with the spoken tutorial. Then we have a EPG Pathshala. FOSSE is again for the enhancing the IT literacy of teachers and students of the free softwares. Then eJantra is basically a robotics website. So if the teacher or students are interested in robotics, they can learn robotics on eJantra. So eJantra is a very good website. Then we have a e-Shodh Sindhu, where for accessing the resources for research. So if like we want to use resources for teaching or research in our teaching, this is a good website. Then we have a virtual labs. So these are the virtual labs which one can use for teaching the practicals. So basically, I will be discussing in detail on this. Then we have a e-Shodh Shuddhi, and e-Shodh Shuddhi is basically for detection of the plagiarism. Then we have a e-Gyan Kosh and e-Vidya Mitra. So e-Gyan Kosh is and e-Vidya Mitra I am going to discuss, and two more initiatives, but those two more initiatives are basically are for learning management systems, which are for college administrative, not for a teachers and students. So I'm not discussing them here. So first, talk about Swayam. Swayam was launched in 2016. I'm not talking here about Neptel. If some of you think why I'm not considering Neptel here, basically now Neptel is merged into the Swayam platform by Ministry of Human Resource and Development. So I'm just discussing Swayam platform here, not the Neptel one. So I skipped that Neptel platform. So Swayam is India's own MOOC. It has a courses which is there, which one can can be used to learn anything from class 9th to PG level. So that is there. So till now there are about 1.25 plus crore enrollments are there. Number of students which have taken the certification exam is more than 6 lakh now. And recently UGC allowed credit transfer, 20% credit transfer facility available for enrolled students. Like student earning the credits from the courses from Swayam can use them to transfer these credits to their degree, and in a way can complete their degree faster than normal. That has been now allowed, but this is allowed for the universities which has signed the memorandum of understanding with UGC. Delhi University has not done till now, so it is not possible in Delhi University. But at present, there are somewhere about 48 universities till last I know they have enrolled in it, signed the MOU, and 20% credit can be transferred. There are twice Swayam takes twice the exam a year, like our semester system there is, and there are a lot many good chemistry courses which are there. Like I just highlighted here the courses which are being come in an upcoming session that the person can use, like introductory chemistry, organic chemistry one. This is a paper similar to the course syllabus is similar to the our organic one paper, UGC. Then there is introduction to polymer science. Then there is mechanism in organic chemistry, metals in biology. This is a PG level paper. This is again PG level paper. Application of spectroscopic method in molecular spectroscopy. This is again the PG level paper. There are a lot of PG and UG level papers that student can see and enroll and join. Then this is the very good initiative that I like basically more than Swayam, because Swayam, the person is dependent on what we say internet, but many of the time the student or must do not have uh, internet access or a good internet access. Like many of the our students come from remote areas, so they do not have a good internet connection. So now the Swayam Prabha comes into the picture. Swayam Prabha is a DTH channel for uh, distribution of educational resources. These are a cluster of 32 channels. Recently, 12 more channels were also announced by ministry. These now combined 44 or 46 channels will be covering from class 1 to PG level. So every aspect of Indian education system will be covered by these channels, DTH channels. These are free to air channels. Nobody has to pay them. And plus all these channels are also available on YouTube. And plus these channels are also aired on All India Radio as a free on their frequencies. These are like every subject has a different channel in it, and we have there are two special channels for IITs, IIT coaching that we can say. And if you talk about the chemistry, there are two channels which are related to chemistry, channel 8 and channel 10. So these two channels are basically concerned about chemistry. So we can see there are the courses like structural bonding, gaseous state, structural bonding aids, liquid state, polymer chemistry, polynuclear and heteroatomic aromatic compounds, one. And plus there the telecast date also. And there is a format that this channel is from 4 hours of fresh lectures every day, and then the repeat telecast. So the student can see that their schedule and can watch the whatever what they want to like to watch, or they can go to the YouTube one and they can do on YouTube if they have a good internet connection. Then National Digital Library of India. Many of us do not know about the National Digital Library, or we do not use it, but it's a very good resource. It has 3.8 crore ebooks, journals, audiobooks, and question banks for free. So they don't charge anything. You just register. You can download the books and you can read them. Content is available in 200 plus languages. And now because of COVID-19, they have come up this like question banks, etc. resources at one place. Like you go click on UG Science. At UG Science, there will be the topics: chemistry, biology, zoology, etc. You click on chemistry. All the resources which is in National Digital Repository regarding the chemistry are available. So student can learn. Now you can share the pick and choose the resource and share with your students. Then EPG Pathshala chemistry is very good, very well mapped with our syllabus. As basically EPG Pathshala is developed by Delhi University, one of the centers in Delhi University, Khalsa College. So it is a mandate for, again, like similar mandate to us at National Resource Center for Education, developing e-content for 70 subjects. We are basically not developing the content, we are collating them. So we being a repository. So if you go to the chemistry, you click, you can find every paper mapped to the UGC paper. So student or teacher can help the students to access them. Then we have a virtual lab. Virtual lab is a very interesting concept. Like in Delhi University, we have seen a lot of colleges, there is difference between the lab infrastructure of the colleges. That every college lab doesn't have every instrument. So here, if you go to the any college at a district level or small town level, they don't have a resources to buy chemicals or instruments. So these virtual labs come into the picture. We have this chemical science lab, or physical chemistry lab, and an organic chemistry lab available. So you can go and check that. Then we have a eVidyamitra. eVidyamitra is basically a portal to have all this, search all the e-resources that ministry has developed. So if you go and click type chemistry, you will get 1000 resources which the student or teacher can search. eGyanKosh is again national depository for open universities. So the resources developed by open universities are being put in this repository and shared. I basically open university material are very basic in nature and easy to understand for students. So they can be easily shared with the students who are having a problem in understanding the advanced textbooks. And again, the thing is, the resources are available in Hindi, and that is again an advantage. So here are the few further reading that you can people go through to see more about the open education resources which are available. And in ends, I like to end this talk with my favorite quote: every student can learn, just not on the same day or the same way. So remember, every student can learn. We just need to find a way to teach them or resource which they can use. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Rohit. Now, participant can ask their questions.
We have two questions in the chat box.
Okay.
One by Dr. Babita Gaur.
Okay.
Ma'am is asked about the quality and impact factor related to OER.
Okay. So quality is one thing that is a big challenge, but quality can be improved by peer reviewed and revisions. So at National Resource Center for Education, we are making this thing, we are developing the community based approach in revising the OER. So there can be the quality can be improved. And then as a teacher, when we are sharing the open education with resource with the student, we can also pick and choose what are the good quality content is there and what are not good. So that is one thing that as a teacher or a educator I can do.
Another question is by Dr. Rajesh Verma. He's asking if we use these other materials with proper citation without permission, then does it involve copyright issues?
Yes, it involves the copyright issues. So if you even use the citation, but if you have not the like it's you take a picture, a graph from a book, like in physical chemistry phase diagrams. So you just take from KL Kapoor, take a phase diagram, or Atkins take a phase diagram and put in your resource, and cite taken from Atkins, and you share it a resource. But you have not taken the permission from a publisher to share it. So you are infringing the copyright of the publisher, and publisher has a right to sue you for infringing the copyright.
There is one more question by Mr. Amit Kumar. He's saying by the virtual lab, we cannot have a good hand for handling instrument. So what do you say, Dr. Rohit?
Yes, that's why there is no lab for a organic chemistry in the virtual lab. But virtual labs comes when we do not have resource. Like there are lot many institute, like in Delhi University, we also face a problem in Delhi University in purchasing chemicals for our labs nowadays. Just think about the institutes like a small district college there, so they don't have a money to buy instrument or anything. But I just want to teach my student about a lab, because the practical aspect is going to enhance their knowledge and complete their learning outcomes. So these resources, virtual labs, come handy there. So that is going to complete their education or learning outcomes.
Uh, Hello, sir. I have a question.
Yes.
Hello. Do we have virtual laboratory for UG physics experiments?
Yes, we have a physics experiments also. If you go to the
Uh,
virtual lab website, they have a physics lab also.
and what about the electronics and digital lab?
Electronic and digital labs are very well developed in virtual lab.
Okay. So for that we need to go to that virtual laboratory part.
Yes,
Okay.
vlab.ac.in.
Do we have to register it first for using, because I suppose I want my students to use that, or me?
Student can register using their normal Gmail or Yahoo ID. So there is no
Okay.
problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, there is another question by Mr. Shivans. Sir, if I want to make some resource but not know whether it is already published or not, how will we deal with this?
See, even like that organic chemistry, there are about somewhere about 20 to 30 open textbooks are there now, good quality textbooks. Only thing that resource should not be plagiarizing. The plagiarism is the key. So if you make a resource like I make a lab manual for the practicals in my college, and you make it in your college, we both have a same sets of a lab, but I'm not going to plagiarize your content. I'm not going to cut, copy, paste, and put my name and share it. If I do it in my own language, 1,000 resources can be there describing same thing. Like textbooks, organic chemistry is described by lot many books which are there, but they are not plagiarizing them. So open education resource can be more than one, and it also gives choice to students and educators. Like the land level which are being there, they can be decided which suits what.
Okay. Thank you, sir. There is another question by Mr. Ankit Tomar. He is asking, what are the good online tools for evaluating students' assignments?
If you are using Gmail, so in Gmail, if you go to their G Suite Market, there is a great professor. So this is this is a free resource that can be used. Plus, you can use Google Sheets to make your own online grading system. Tutorials are available on YouTube for making it very well.
Okay, another question is how we can create OER, being a layman brief in detail, by Dr. Amit Parashar.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, how we can create OER, being a layman, brief, please brief in detail.
OER, supposedly, if you want to create OER uh, as a layman, you don't know any computing anything. Start with Google document or Google uh, slides. You can make it. You just do not need anything. You can use to create a Google site for yourself, publish all your what you have created the layman your OER and publish it on your website or Google site. It's free, so you don't need to pay any money.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any other question, Beena?
Yeah, there is a question by Dr. Sharda. Ma'am has asked, can images from web with proper attribution be used in our content?
Yes, ma'am. I just if you see in my presentation, there are Flickr CC. So you can use Flickr CC for taking Creative Commons images for your lectures. Plus, if you go to the Google image search, you can go to the filters, and in filters there is an option images without images for reuse without attribution, or images for reuse without commercial one. So you can put that filter and search image and you can use it.
Dr. Rohit, Mansi has asked, if I have posted my handwritten notes on college website,
Yes.
is it my copyright? And
Yes, it's your copyright.
who all other than college students can use it?
See, if you put it on website, college website, anybody can use it. But if you want to sue that person, you can sue that because still have a copyright. Like if you have posted a resource and I use it in my class lecture, and you come to know that Rohit is using the handwritten notes what you published on Gargi website in your class, in my class, she has full right to sue me for infringing her copyright without anything. Or like if I am taking a coaching class, and in coaching class I'm giving Fancy's handwritten notes as my resource, so I'm taking a commercial attributions, commercial profit from her notes without giving anything, so I'm infringing her copyright. So that is what.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Das this side.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a very small question. I want to know that in case we are quoting an author in our written work, okay,
Yes.
but that the person, the textbook author himself has taken the quote from the original author,
Yes.
okay, then whom do I attribute?
If you know the first person who is quoted,
G.
then you are going to attribute that person
Directly. Okay. If I'm not able to say X and X has quoted Y, I'm not able to get the source of Y, then how do I attribute? Should I attribute it to X, saying so and so has quoted from here?
Then you are going to attribute the source that you know.
Okay. Okay. Because sometimes you have very old definitions or old authors whom you cannot trace back to the original work. That is why I'm asking for definitions or
Yes,
quotations.
that is sometimes happens like that. We take some quotation that we came across even on the, so we cannot put the attribution. So sometimes it's better that you can put the unknown. If somebody says that you have violated his or copyright, you can attribute it later on. But most of the time it doesn't happen like this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Rohit, there is another interesting question by Rekha Navneet ma'am. The question is, what about books that are not available in print but are freely downloadable as we have in philosophy? Are we still violating copyrights?
Now this is a very interesting question that we also faced just now when we are doing collation for that. We ask experts to share. If you sometimes put the name of the book on a Google, and sometimes there are websites which put the full book came up, the link came up where the full book is there. Okay. So the problem is, if publisher has not put that book online for open access and somebody else does it, then it's a problem of infringing the copyright. Like if you go and Google Claydon PDF, so you will get a website or where the full Claydon book is put up by the students or some other groups. So then it's going to be a problem. And we all know about a sci-hub thing that is there. So that is going to be infringing the right. Even in philosophy, we face this problem because many experts has given us the book. When we checked with our legal experts, they said as we cannot clearly say that whether the publisher has put it or somebody else. So most of the time, it's better to leave that.
Okay, thank you. Another question is by Miss Sanjot Singh. Sir, you mentioned that your organization will be releasing OER for economics by mid-June. Can you please let us know which are those?
Basically, these open education resources on economics are mapping the 21 specialization of economics. So like there are going to be resources for microeconomics, economics of education, Indian labor economics. So there are a lot many which are going to be mapped to the UGC syllabus. So they are going to be textbooks resources. They are going to be online lectures, online videos. There are a lot many resources that are being put up there.
Okay, Beena, can you see any other question?
There is another question by Amit Kumar. Is there any source for summer internship for research? Easy to get.
Summer internship. You people can write. Summer internship is basically Indian National Science Congress is there that you can use. Uh, if you can use that one, then there are a lot of IITs have a summer internship programs. Then Delhi University ACBR has uh, ACBR has a summer internship program. Then you can go to Internshala. So there are a lot many online internships are there on internshala.com. So that can be used.
Aditya has asked about virtual lab for botany for UG and PG courses.
Yeah, there are virtual labs for botany, UG and PG on there. That's but not all the covered, but there are a lot many topics which are being covered.
There is one question from Sagar Jwala. Maximum of OERs only available in English, limiting their usefulness to non-English speakers. Additionally, not all resources are culturally appropriate for all audiences. Your point on this?
Yeah, that's again the problem that not most of the resources are available in English. Uh, but what we are doing is we are trying to take help of the experts to converting in them a local language so that student can help can be do that and adapting. Like I told you that one of the best thing about open education resources is that we can adapt it. So the like in philosophy or if I say sociology, most of the sociology readings can be based on a Western sociology which is not going to be fully applicable for Indian society. So I can take that readings or resources and I can adapt from the Indian point of view, sociology notes or open education resources, and I can use it.
Rohit, Dr. Vajanti has asked, I have put some pictures of pages from a book in Google Classroom. Is that violation of copyright?
Yes, that's a violation of copyrights if you don't have a permission from publisher. So if somebody takes a screenshot of that Google Classroom and share with publisher, publisher can sue you and your organization if it's that Google Classroom is of affiliated to the institute.
One more question by Dushyant. E-books cannot replace the original textbooks. E-resources can be distracting. What can be done with this?
Virtual textbooks will be replacing the textbooks. I can tell you there is one of the very big publisher in Canada, Nelson Publishers. They have stopped publishing textbooks, physical textbooks. So even in India, we are not seeing, but globally there is a trend of less publishing, and there are a lot many e-textbooks are there. E-resources are distracting. I don't agree with that. It's all depend upon a student, how they can. Student can be distracted in a classroom lecture. As we know, if we are teaching 50 people in a classroom, not all the 50 going to have a attention for that 50 minutes. So they are going to be distracted somewhere. So it's all depend upon a student, how good or bad their attention is, I will say. So that is what. So e-resources are going to supplement and help them. And also e-resources are going to change how we teach in, I will say, next 5 to 10 years, because we are going to change our teaching to the flip models. So most of the time, globally, there is a trend to wean away from this traditional lecture mode, which is going to be very monotonous in the class. Student get bored. So the flipped classrooms are going to take precedence over the model that we teach now in India. So sooner or later, this shift is going to happen. And with this COVID-19, maybe this shift can happen very soon than we expecting.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rohit Bhatia. It will be very nice if you can share your email ID so that participant can ask you for queries there also.
Okay,
we will go through these websites
yes,
in future.
I'm just sharing my email ID. So everybody can write whatever the questions they have. I'm happy to answer them. So here it is, bhatia.rohit10@gmail.com. So if you have any question regarding open education resources, you can ask.
Thank you, Dr. Rohit Bhatia. Now I request Dr. Beena Negi to give vote of thanks.
Before that, dear participants, the feedback form link has been posted in the chat box. You can submit your feedback box right now, or if you have any issue, you can mail to Dr. Beena Negi 5@gmail.com or manju.k.saroj@gmail.com. You mail us after 1 week if you don't get the e-certificate, or if there is any issue in filling the feedback form. Now I, Dr. Beena, on behalf of Chemistry Department, Gargi College, extend a hearty vote of thanks to our Principal Ma'am, Dr. Pramila Kumar, for her encouragement and providing all the support for this webinar. Thank you very much, ma'am. I would like to thank our resource person, Dr. Bhatia, for this informative and very useful talk. Dr. Bhatia has explained OER, the 5 R's of open educational resources: retain, reuse, remix, revise, redistribute. He has explained the benefits and challenges of OER, copyright licensing, and various tools for OER like Inkspace, OpenOffice, Canvas, etc. We have also learned about the tools for creating images and audio and videos. We also came to know about the virtual labs, and as Dr. Bhatia said, there are not much virtual labs for organic chemistry, but for other subjects, there are many virtual labs. We also came to know about Swayam Prabha, NDL, and EPG Pathshala spoken tutorial for, say, eYantra, which are beneficial to teachers as well as students, and students can have their credits from those online courses also. We have many virtual labs like Shodhi, eGyan Kosh. Dr. Rohit also spoke about this MP Doordarshan, which telecast for Hindi medium students. So here again, the Hindi medium students and teachers, they can also get benefit from these resources which are available by MP Doordarshan. Then I would like to thank our teacher in charge and the faculty members of our department for their encouragement and support. We have many of our beloved alumni and its participants today. So thank you, alumni of chemistry, for participating. We have our superannuated teacher, Dr. Prem Kullar and Dr. Indu Sidwani. Thank you, ma'am, for participating and giving you valuable time. Last but not the least, I will thank Mr. Anuj Bhardwaj for all the technical support he has provided. and on the coordination. With these warm words, we move to the end of today's webinar. Kindly fill the feedback form which has been posted on this chat box. Thank you, participants across various colleges and universities for attending this webinar. Thanks once again, our resource person, Dr. Bhatia.
Thank you, Beena.
Thank you. Now, I request Mr. Anuj to end this webinar. Anuj.
Thank you, Anuj.
Thank you, Anuj.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Rohit.
everyone.